It is 6:15 p.m. here on Monday 13th of June 2022. My name is Arran Hunt. I'm a partner here at the law firm Stace Hammond, where I head up the ever-growing immigration team. And the Honourable Kris, Minister of Immigration, is now the former Minister of Immigration. We'll have a quick look at that today, as well as some updates about the issues with Phase 2 of the RV21 in today's video. As always, this is not legal advice. This is just our commentary on immigration here in New Zealand. If you're looking for legal advice, get in contact with us at the email down below. So the headline news is, of course, the resignation of Kris Faafoi. The Prime Minister has stated that he made her aware of that this would occur during the election cycle, as he wanted to spend some time with his kids who are sort of approaching school age. Now, for the MPs that I have spoken with in the past, I've known them now for several decades, some of them, being in Parliament is a very, very tough job, one that I would not want myself, at least not anytime soon. And it's very hard on a relationship and on a family, so I'm not surprised by the news. I see nothing else in this other than what he has stated. He wants to spend more time with his family and his children. What this does mean is that Michael Wood is taking over immigration. Now, he's known for being a very detail-oriented MP, but we don't think we'll see any change as to the policy around immigration, because that is largely led by the party as a whole and definitely by the Prime Minister. What it does mean is that we're going to have a minister, hopefully, who can focus more on immigration rather than being split between two, with Faafoi being sort of split between immigration and justice. Now, Michael Wood does have transport as well, but I think that will probably be a lower priority than, say, justice would, and immigration will hopefully get more of his focus. Now let's look at the Phase 2 RV21 applications and some of the issues rising around those. Now, first, we have seen a number of applicants still being asked to provide medicals when their medicals are still valid, or at least were still valid when they made the application a few months ago. Now, INZ has been made aware of this. A month ago, they are aware of this. They've admitted to being aware of this issue, but it is still not fixed. Now, what we think is the issue is created because previous immigration officers haven't correctly recorded the migrants' medical dates within the system correctly. So there should be a field stating in the applicant's history, most recent medical, most recent x-ray, and it's supposed to be updated whenever an application is made, but often the officer who's handling an application of a previous visa hasn't updated those fields and hasn't just left it in the details themselves. We do see that a lot. Now, when the system goes to check whether you have a medical, it looks at that one field, where it's supposed to be updated, and if that shows an earlier date, it goes, hey, medical required. It's not going through, of course, and checking the notes, which will show a more recent medical that isn't showing in that main slot. So this seems to be, we think, the cause. Immigration New Zealand they've confirmed the fault is there. It is still an issue. It's an issue that they can't easily fix. At least it's not fixed so far. And so that would make sense as to why that is taking place. Now, INZ have informed us that if people have gone and paid for a new medical when it wasn't required, they should raise a complaint to INZ. They really should be covering the cost of this. Immigration New Zealand should, because it is a fault with their own process, not with the applicant themselves, but there's still an indication yet as to how they're going to handle these when a complaint is made. But we do hope they are getting refunded. We see the same issue with people who had previously given their passport to Immigration New Zealand or the VAC to be scanned, and are being asked to provide it again because the system doesn't seem to show that it's been provided. Now, for my clients who have been asked this, we've gone to immigration, we've gone through the notes, and it will show there in the notes somewhere that the VAC has had and scanned the passport, or INZ have had the passport, they've done a transfer, they've had the original passport with them. So this passport is not required to be scanned again. The system, for whatever reason, isn't seeing this and is flagging up a, hey, you're offshore, please provide your passport. Or if you've got a newborn in New Zealand, hey, you've got a child included, we have no record of them because they're a newborn in New Zealand, provide your passport to the offshore office. Again, if that's the issue, talk to Immigration New Zealand, talk to your advisor or your lawyer if you've got one. If they've already had your passport before, it isn't required to be provided a second time, as long as it is the same passport. Now, if you've got a new passport since then they may require you to provide if you are offshore. So check that whether it's the same passport. If it's the same passport they've had previously, you should not be required to provide it again. So you should be able to save your costs there, let immigration know. Now, the added issue with these errors are that even though, so in those ones there, basically we're telling immigration, we're doing a little cover letter saying, hey, this is a situation, you've already got the medical, you've already got the passport, this is an error in your system, they're not required. And that goes into the file, so it's sort of easy for them to see when they go and check their correspondence. Now, the issue is that the way that this seems to be happening is that even though you tell immigration that they've made a mistake there, the system appears to be waiting for some sort of trigger before it checks again. So you'll see in the letter that says to you, you have 20 working days to do this. This is actually waiting for that time to elapse before they check. And it could be a system checking it, an automated process, rather than an actual officer checking it. So what we're seeing is that we're making the note to the officer or to the system saying, hey, this doesn't need to be required. And it's going nowhere fast because there's a timer on when it checks next. So while if you've caught this and you haven't paid for the medical, you haven't paid for the VAC process, it is still impacting your application because it's delaying things, it's making things slower. And even though the system itself isn't overly fast, we will come to that in a few moments, it is still causing delays for applicants, which is disappointing to see when it is an immigration fault that is causing that delay. Now, we've had some questions today about this new INZ 1277 form. So an advisor posted on Facebook that there was a need for people to complete this form if they had a partner or child in their application. Now, there's nothing official from Immigration New Zealand about this form. There is the INZ 1278 form, one number later, which we believe was created for when people were left off an application by mistake. But even then, there is no official process yet to use that form. The form is there, it's been there since sometime in the middle of May, but there is no process yet as to how to add someone to your application. Immigration is still working on that process. Now, that shouldn't include the 1277, which is a much simpler form, which we really can't see a purpose for it. The information in the 1277 will be included in the application you've submitted with the Phase 2 application in the system, if done correctly. So we're kind of drawing a blank as to what this document is for. We have asked immigration that question. They have told us that at the moment it is not required to be filled out for any process, but they are working on a process to do with the adding new applicants, but this shouldn't be included in that. So right now we're looking at sort of holding off and seeing what this form is about, whether it's required, what the process is. It has been 3.5 months since they opened up the Phase 2 process, so it doesn't make sense as to why they would be changing something now. Now, if they do bring this through as being a requirement for everyone who has a partner or a dependent, that would be an admittance that they made a mistake with the system, because this should be in the original application. If they should be asking you all now 3.5 months later, hey, by the way, sign this form. So we don't think it's that either. We're not quite sure what it is though. So we'll keep an eye out what's going on here, and hopefully we get some information from them as to what the INZ 1277 form is. Now with the 1278 regarding the adding people who you may have missed off the application, that process is being worked on. Again, we've asked them for an update today as to where that process is, and hopefully we'll have something soon defining what that's going to be, but it has again been 3.5 months. Now finally, coming to the processing times for the Phase 2 applications. But we've seen it a number of times, we've said on a number of videos before, never compare yourself to other applications you see being granted online. The reason we say that is because it's very hard to sort of compare one to the other, and what you're often seeing is the very small number of happy people, and the ones who are quiet and waiting aren't saying much. So you're comparing yourself to the group of successes rather than the group that is actually still waiting. What we have said though is that immigration did indicate that May was when they'd start seeing more visas being granted from Phase 2. And we said, we're going to give them that chance to get things done in May. Now, they were a little bit late. It was the first week of June. The week ended in 5th of June, so a little bit of May, a little bit of June. In that, we did actually see an increase in the applications being granted, up to 1466 in that week, compared to 535 the week before. So this is the largest number of applications granted in a single week since early April, which does seem to indicate that this is the phase 2 applications now coming through, because there wasn't that many phase 1.5s or phase 1s being made during that period. So that is definitely an increase, almost a triple number of applications granted over the previous week, and we'll hopefully see that number increasing and continuing over the next several months. But remember though, there is 90,000 applications about sitting in the queue. So if you are one of those people who are sitting there not seeing your visa being granted, you're one of 90,000, okay? So there's 1,500 granted this week. That is still a small number of a much larger number. So have patience, it does take time. But we did want to give you sort of an indication as to where things are at least from our view, what we're seeing with our clients. So I've gone through and done the numbers, just general rough numbers as to where all of our clients are sitting in the phase 2 system. So we've got about 3% of our applications so far that have been granted. We've had, I think one did post online about, we've had some more after that. So we've got about 3% of applications have been granted from phase 2. About 3% are sitting at the under assessment stage. That's the stage just before they're granted. That's sort of sitting there for 4 or 5 weeks. From experience so far, and that's when they're getting that final look over by an officer to make sure that everything is there, everything is kosher, and everything's going to be going through okay. We then have a third sitting at the stage before that. That's the getting information stage. It's sort of hard to define the difference between that and the previous stage, which we'll get to. We'll see to in a moment. But there's about a third sitting at that stage where that's actually the stage where we typically see immigration asking them to provide one of the documents, one of the ones we said before about that shouldn't be provided, but they're asking for it. So about 1/3 sitting there, and about 60% are sitting at the earlier preparing application stage. So once you make the application, immigration will at some point ask you to provide documentation. You provide the documentation, and that's where you're sitting in that preparing application stage. So 60%, around that figure, of our applications are still sitting at that stage. So if you are sitting at the preparing application stage or the getting information stage, you're sitting with about 93% of the applicants. So you are sitting where most of the applicants are still sitting. So don't get disappointed when you see others getting their visa granted. That is great for them. You are one of 90,000 applications. So yeah, hopefully it gives you a bit of information sort of to give you an idea as to where you may be sitting in the process. It is not a fast process. Residence is never a fast process. It has still only been a few months. The minister did say 12 months, now he's saying 18 months. I'm optimistic. Hopefully it'll be closer to 12, if not less. But it is not going to be something that's done speedily. We did hear that until recently there was still only a very small number of officers trained to use new system. That has since increased, but it was kind of shocking as to how small that number was until recently as to they could actually work on the system. So things are picking up, and that is fantastic to see. And that was about it. Actually, just a quick shout out to Plan B in Parnell, my favourite local Indian restaurant here in the city. If you are in or near Parnell, definitely go check them out. They don't know I'm going to be posting this. They don't know who I am, actually. My fiance and I go there as regular customers and just love their Hyderabad chicken. So if you are around Parnell, Plan B, I'll leave a link in the description. Definitely go and check them out. That is it for this quick video today. We do have an article about the accredited employer work visa up on our website. I will link to that in the description down below. Videos for that are coming. It's just been so busy, so much work to get done. But if you can help you out with that visa, with that process, with the accreditation process, your employer, please pass on our web link or our details to them. We can help them out with their accreditation process, get that rolling so they're ready to employ migrants or re-employ migrants as things move forward with the change across from the Essential Skills Work Visa to the new AEWV in actually just a few weeks' time. But that is it for today's video. Until next time, kia kaha, stay safe.